Okay, I'm going to make this my last video and I'm going to try to be succinct because my other videos, I don't know if you ever watched any of my videos. I'm a ranter and I'm incoherent and I just digress all over the place. I'm like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember All in the Family, but Archie Bunker's wife, Edith Bunker, she would just go on these tangents and he would go nuts and pretended, yeah, so I'm doing it already. Anyways, I'm going to stick to what I wanted to talk about. I talked about a number of things, but I'm going to stick with one subject that I really, really think is important. This whole war between Ukraine and Russia that could very well happen. Kind of reminds me. I was very young at the time, but the Bay of Pigs invasion and the nuclear weapons and Khrushchev and Castro. God, I was. It's just at the very, very fringes of my memory. And I was a little kid, so I didn't have any idea what was going on, and I don't think anybody wanted me to, but I think I remember watching Chet Huntley and David Brinkley and maybe my mom saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. That's what happens. Adults get angry with each other and threaten each other with nuclear weapons, but don't. Who wants a kid to know that the world's about to blow up, right? Who wants to know that?" And it almost did. Kennedy, yeah, they messed that up with the Bay. I don't know what they should have done with Castro, but he was. We should have given him lots of. We should have bribed him and given him lots of foreign aid. Is what we should have done. That's what he wanted. A lot of these countries that went communist, we just didn't offer them. And yeah, they went. I don't know. We could have handled it better. We were hard assed and we should have been. We weren't like rah 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 democracy for you. It's like we're democracies and we're going to prop up anybody that hates the communists and they'll be so they kill a few people. You can make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs. Yeah, we supported some people that were comparably evil, and the communists did some bad things, but we supported some like Pinochet. There were some people we supported that were just awful. Anyways, I'm off the subject again. Speaking of awful people, Putin, Russia. He feels threatened because the Ukraine's on his border, but he doesn't have a right to invade Ukraine. Ukraine has a right to its own government. What do we do? This reminds me of I'm not a history buff, but okay, World War II, Czechoslovakia, peace in our time, Poland. Oh, you better, me, Mr. Hitler, we don't want to antagonize him, but we'll send him a nasty letter letting him know that we'll stick with these. We sold them out. We sold them down the river. We let Czechoslovakia invade and conquer Czechoslovakia, and we let them invade Poland, and there was like a phony war. We didn't really go to war with them. It wasn't we. It was the French. The French. The poor French. Better Hitler than Blum. Yeah, the poor. I mean, don't be too hard on the French. They're right up against Germany. I mean, if we were on Germany's border, we probably would have gotten occupied too. We had a whole Atlantic Ocean to protect us. And some of those French tanks were better than the German tanks. Their tactics. The German tactics were far superior. But at the time, their tanks, they weren't the Tiger tanks yet. They were the Panzer 1 and 2, and they weren't as good as the Char B or whatever. The French had some good tanks. They just didn't know how to deploy them properly, and there wasn't the will. After World War I, the French had suffered so badly, they didn't have another will for the. And there are a lot of people that didn't like the fact that they had a socialist running the country. They had a saying, and it was horrible. God forgive me for repeating it, but they would say, "Better Hitler than Blum." Better Hitler than Blum. That's what they'd say. And let's not be too hard on the French because the Netherlands. I mean, my family hid Jews, but they fought in the resistance, but there were collaborators everywhere. Norway, Quisling, there were collaborators in the Netherlands that thought that Hitler was the best thing since sliced bread. Anyways, appeasement. We just said, we don't want to antagonize them. We don't want to start another war like World War I. Only it wasn't called World War I. I think they called it the Great War. How could it be World War I when there was no World War II? Although I guess you could call it World War I. Anyways, stick to the point. Stick to the point. Russia attacked because Russia knew that eventually they were going to have to fight Germany. Russia attacked from one side. Germany attacked from the other side. Was it the Hitler-Stalin Pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and then Barbarossa, and then all of a sudden, Stalin couldn't believe that he was being invaded. I mean, all he had to do was read Mein Kampf. I mean, Hitler hated everybody. He wasn't. I mean, the Jews were at the top of his list of people that he absolutely hated, but he didn't really think much of Slavs either. I mean, he really considered them to be, what's that German, Untermenschen, just under people, just like scum. It was awful. And that's why they couldn't believe that they had a tank like the T-34, because they thought that the Russians were just a bunch of illiterate monkeys. Of course, the Christie suspension, the suspension from the T-34 was an American invention that we thought was too expensive. A lot of things, the Ford put a factory over there. They had a lot of good things in the Soviet Union that they bought from us. I mean, I'm not saying that the gulags were good, but a lot of their technology, a lot of the trucks that they did have, Ford went over and built him a factory. People don't know that. They said that he was friends with Hitler. He was friends with anybody that would give him money. He did business with Stalin. Let's try to remember that. Henry Ford did business with Joseph Stalin. So he was he was a rabid anti-Semite, but so was Stalin for that matter. Not nice people. Anyways, fast forward 2022. We're like, oh, we don't want to get involved. This could be terrible. We don't know this is going to end at the Ukraine. If they get the feeling that we're weak, they could take Poland and Romania and be in Germany. The Germans are so worried about their natural gas. Now, do we send troops? I don't know if we should send troops. I really, really don't know if we should be deploying troops there. I mean, my gut tells me, yeah, we should just go over there with planes and sit at the border and go, okay, Russia, you want to fight? Come on. Look, see all those high-tech planes and all the Abrams tanks, and we got a few Leclercs from the French. They're not. This is the thing with the French. The French have been doing a lot of stuff for us. They were in Afghanistan, thankless, taking all our stupid jokes, but they were over and fighting. They were fighting in Mali. They're fighting they just thought, of all the nerve, they thought Iraq was a bad idea. They just thought, this is not going to work well. This is not going to end well for you. And it's not a good idea. Imagine the nerve of them thinking that Iraq would be a failed. A lot of people said this whole thing was just. I mean, how many people have tried to invade Afghanistan? Alexander the Great. The Russians tried to invade. The Soviets. The British. Everybody's been there and conquered it, and they've never been able to hold that land. It's just such a. It's like being on the moon. I mean, I hate the Taliban. That's awful, but I mean, how long were we going to be there? 20, 30 years? That's the other thing. How long will this war last? But I'm going crazy thinking about what do we do? If we're too weak, the Russians will see that and they'll take Ukraine. And then it'll be like the domino thing during communism. They'll take Ukraine and they'll take, it's just Latvia, Litvia, Lithuania. They're just small little countries. What do we care? It's not worth a war. Poland's not worth a war. Romania's not worth a war. The Hungarians are anti-Semites. We don't need to bother with them. Nobody's perfect. I mean, I know they got problems. That disturbs me. That disturbs me what's going on in Eastern Europe. It really, really does. Because I'm not a big fan of theocracies, and a lot of those countries seem to be kind of getting that way. I'm not for any religion being in charge of a country. I would rather. I'm not against people having a religion, but I think like France or like us at certain points in our history where there was a definite separation of church and state. People can have whatever religion they want, but the religion doesn't get to run things. So it's a rule of law, not the Bible. I'm a little more comfortable with that. Thank you very much. I'm off topic. Anyways, I would like to know what people think. And this video will never get posted anywhere and nobody will ever see it. But if they do, I'm not trying to tell you, we should send troops or, we should stay out. It's like, is there anybody out there with more of a brain than I have left that can tell me what the heck we should be doing to prevent this? Because this could be the end of this could be really, really serious. It's like that song by REM. Here, I'll play that song. And I don't feel fine. I want to tell you something right now. I'm not fine with this. It's just, I thought I would be, it's the end of the world. It's just a big lark, but I'm telling you, that's not how I feel about this. I'm not happy about the world ending this way. Oh my God! We're all gonna die! What are we gonna do? I mean, poor Ukrainians, they're surrounded. And they're saying, oh, well, the Ukrainians are Nazis. The Russians are Nazis. You know, everybody's accusing everybody of being a Nazi. But does that give you a right to invade a sovereign nation? This is not right. And I don't think Ukraine is Nazi. They've got they're trying to be liberal, democratic, and secular like we are. And I don't think we should dictate governments, but we should try to encourage and defend other democracies. And I don't think we're doing it. I think Biden's in a hard place. I'm not, bragging on the Democrats or Biden for being weak. Because, I mean, the Republicans are now like, oh, well, we should have, what were we doing? What the hell were we doing in the Middle East for 20 years? What did we accomplish? But at the same time, if we just isolate ourselves and we don't do anything, Putin's gonna do something crazy. He's a KGB. He's gonna get arrogant. He's gonna get hubris, and he's gonna go crazy. What do we do? We're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. It's a catch-22 situation, and I feel awful. I think I'm going to throw up. I don't feel fine at all.